I always believed family dinners were supposed to feel warm, comforting, a place where everyone gathered to laugh, eat, and forget their worries for a while. But that night was different. From the moment I stepped into my mother-in-law's house, I felt something strange in the air. Something tight, something fake. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were cold, calculating, almost too eager. We all sat down at the beautifully decorated table. Fresh flowers, expensive plates, soft music playing in the background. It looked perfect, too perfect. Mark, my husband, didn't notice anything off. He never did, but I did. Because at the exact moment my mother-in-law leaned over my shoulder, pretending to adjust the napkin near my plate, I saw it. A small packet in her hand. She tore it open carefully, quietly, and sprinkled something into my glass. The crystals dissolved instantly, and she didn't think anyone saw, but I did. My heart stopped for a second, not because I thought she wanted to hurt me badly, but because she planned this. She had been waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect dinner, the perfect smile to hide the perfect betrayal. And when she turned toward the kitchen, humming like everything was normal, something in me shifted. A calmness, a clarity. If she wanted me to drink whatever she put in that glass, she was about to be very, very disappointed. Because without saying a single word, without causing a scene, without even moving my chair, I quietly slid her husband's glass toward me and pushed my own glass toward his place setting, smooth, silent, invisible. And as I did that, one thought echoed in my mind. Let's see what happens now. Before that night, before the crystals in the glass, before the fear in her eyes, there was a long, painful history that led us here. My mother-in-law, Evelyn, never hid her feelings about me. From the moment Mark introduced me as the woman he wanted to marry, she froze, as if he'd brought home a stranger who didn't deserve to be in the same room. She wanted someone different for him. Someone from her circle, someone she approved of. Someone she could control. And I apparently wasn't that someone. Every visit to her house felt like a test I didn't study for, a new judgment. A new comment that felt innocent on the surface but carried poison underneath. Mark always brushed it off. That's just how Mom is, he'd say. She doesn't mean anything by it. But I knew better. I felt it. The eyes that watched me like I was an intruder. The tone that softened only when Mark was around. The remarks that grew sharper when he left the room. And then came her invitation, a special family dinner. Her voice too cheerful, her words too warm. We've had our differences, Anna, she said. But I want to start fresh. A fresh start. Right, I should have known then. This wasn't a dinner to fix things. It was a dinner to finish something she started long ago. The moment we sat at the table, I felt that uneasy silence right before a storm breaks. Everything looked perfect, too perfect. Freshly baked bread. Steaming dishes arranged like a magazine photo, candles glowing softly. And right in front of me, a tall glass of homemade lemonade. My mother-in-law placed it down gently, almost ceremonially, like she was offering me something precious. Anna, she said with a sugary smile, I made this just for you. Just for me. Her voice was warm, but the warmth felt forced, like a smile stretched too far. I watched her hands, her movements, her eyes. Everything she did felt rehearsed. A minute later, she stood to grab the dessert, but before leaving the table, she paused behind my chair. Her body shielded the glass from the others, and that's when I saw it. Her hand, her fingers, the tiny white package she tried to hide. She tore it open in one quick motion, sprinkled the powder into the drink, stirred it with my straw as if nothing happened, then walked away, humming. My heart raced. It wasn't panic. It was awareness. Sharp, cold awareness. What was she trying to do? Make me nauseous, embarrass me in front of everyone. Force me to leave so she could enjoy family time without me. I didn't know the answer, but I knew one thing. I wasn't drinking that. As everyone chatted about work, vacations, and weather, I kept my eyes on her every move. She kept glancing back at me, waiting for me to sip it, so I waited. And at the perfect moment, when she turned her head, distracted, I slid my glass across the table and switched it with her husband's. Quiet, smooth, almost invisible. By the time she turned back, the glass in front of me was clean, safe. Her trap was still on the table, but now, it wasn't mine. I didn't say a word, but inside, I whispered, checkmate. It happened so fast, and yet somehow, the moment stretched forever in my mind. Mark's father, Henry, wasn't even paying attention. He was laughing at something Mark said, reaching casually across the table, his hand landing exactly on the glass that was never meant for him. Her glass, the glass she prepared for me. I saw it happening in slow motion. His fingers wrapped around it. He lifted it toward his lips. And that's when Evelyn turned around. Her entire face changed. The polite smile vanished. Her eyes widened like she'd seen a disaster unfolding right in front of her. "Henry, wait," her voice cut through the room like a sharp blade. But she was too late. He had already taken a long sip. He swallowed. He smacked his lips, confused by the strange taste, and the entire table fell silent. Mark froze. I stayed still, watching. Evelyn looked pale, almost sick. Then she blurted it out. That was Anna's glass. For tiny words that shattered every lie she had tried to hide. Mark turned slowly toward her, his confusion shifting into suspicion. "Mom, why does it matter whose glass it was?" Evelyn tried to laugh it off, her voice shaking. "Oh, don't be dramatic. I just made that one special for Anna." "Special? Of course." Henry coughed lightly, not from sickness, from the bitterness in the drink. He frowned at his wife. "What did you put in this?" Her lips trembled, her hands shook. And for the first time that evening, it wasn't me under the spotlight. It was her plan, her guilt, and the cracks in her perfect mask were finally starting to show. Henry stared at the glass like it had betrayed him. He wasn't hurt, just confused, uncomfortable, trying to understand why his wife reacted like that. But Evelyn looked like her entire world was crashing down. Her fingers gripped the edge of the table so tightly I thought the wood would crack. Mark leaned in, his voice low and suspicious. "Mom, what did you put in that drink?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her eyes darted between Henry, Mark, and me, searching for an excuse, a lie, anything that would save her. Finally, she forced out a shaky laugh. "Oh please, Mark, don't be ridiculous. I just added a little herbal mixture. Healthy stuff." But Mark didn't buy it, not this time. "If it was just herbs, why did you scream when Dad picked up the glass?" And that was it, the moment she broke. Her shoulders dropped, her hands shook. Her voice quivered as she whispered, "I only wanted Anna to feel uncomfortable. That's all. Just enough so she'd excuse herself early." A silence heavier than the entire house fell over the room. So that was her plan. She didn't want to hurt me badly. She just wanted to embarrass me, make me sick, push me out so she could enjoy her family dinner without me. Henry looked shocked, not angry, hurt. "You tried to make her sick, Evelyn. What are you doing?" Evelyn's breath hitched. "I just don't want her here." There it was, the truth she hid behind years of fake smiles and forced kindness. And it was finally out in the open, not because I exposed her, but because she exposed herself. By now, the room was tense, so tense that every small sound seemed to echo. Her perfect smile had shattered. Her eyes darted around, looking for an ally, but there was none. I stayed calm. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. Because I knew the most powerful revenge wasn't in anger. It was in letting people reveal who they truly were. I stood slowly, letting my movements fill the silence. Every eye turned toward me. And I spoke in a voice calm enough to make the room listen, but sharp enough to cut through the lies. "Evelyn," I said, "if your intention was to make me sick, it's good that your husband drank it instead. Maybe now he'll understand what you've been doing all these months." Henry's eyes widened. Mark's jaw tightened. And Evelyn's face went pale. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She tried to stammer, to explain, to lie, but the words just wouldn't come. Her plan had failed spectacularly. She wanted to humiliate me, but instead, she had humiliated herself. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I simply let the truth sit between us, like a mirror reflecting every secret she had been hiding. Mark's voice finally broke the silence. "Mom, that's enough." And in that one command, the power shifted from her to us, to me. Evelyn realized it instantly. All her carefully plotted tricks, all her manipulations, had backfired, because calmness and awareness can be far more dangerous than anger. The silence was suffocating. Evelyn sat frozen, unable to speak, her hands trembling as she stared at the table. Mark's eyes were sharp, piercing, full of the disappointment he had never shown before. And then, slowly, Henry stood. For years, he had been quiet, obedient, always letting Evelyn control the house, the family, the story. But tonight, he was different. He looked directly at her, not with anger, not with blame, but with a calm disappointment that cut deeper than any shouting ever could. "Evelyn," he said, his voice low but steady, "what have you become?" The words landed like a hammer. Her perfect facade cracked even further. She had never expected this. She had thought I would take the blame, or Mark would ignore it, or Henry would stay silent, like always. But none of that happened. Henry continued, his tone firm. "You've embarrassed yourself and this family. You owe Anna an apology." Her lips parted, ready to argue, to shift the blame, to manipulate, but the room was silent, and there was no way out. All her years of control, manipulation, and subtle cruelty were exposed in one horrifying moment. She whispered, shaking, "This is all your fault." And that was the final straw. Henry shook his head, put on his coat, and walked toward the door. Mark followed me out, and Evelyn was left sitting alone at the table she had set so perfectly. The table she had hoped I would leave, humiliated and broken, but she was the one left speechless. She was the one exposed. She was the one who had destroyed her own carefully crafted image. The next morning felt strangely calm, almost unreal. The storm of the previous night had passed, but its effects were still settling. Like ripples on a quiet lake, Henry called Mark first, not to argue, not to defend his wife, but to speak honestly, to take a stand. He apologized to me, even though I hadn't done anything wrong, and admitted the truth he had never voiced before. Evelyn's behavior will not be excused anymore. It was the first time I felt truly seen, not by Mark, not by his family, but by the father who had watched silently for years, letting Evelyn's manipulations continue unchecked. Finally, he recognized her cruelty. Evelyn was sent to therapy, forced to confront the controlling, toxic behavior that had been allowed to fester for years. Family dinners became quieter, healthier. Mark finally understood what I had endured. Every sneer, every small humiliation, every secret attack. He became my defender, my partner in more ways than one, because he had witnessed the truth and chose to stand with me. And the most important part, I didn't have to yell, fight, or expose her myself. Her actions did all the work. She had plotted a humiliating scheme to embarrass me, and instead, she destroyed her own reputation, her own carefully constructed image, in front of everyone. That night, I learned something powerful. Revenge isn't about anger. It's about awareness, patience, and letting the truth take its course. Sometimes the universe has a way of correcting the wrongs we face without us lifting a finger. And as I looked at Mark, finally seeing him fully aware and protective, I realized that staying calm, staying smart, and staying true to yourself is the most powerful kind of victory anyone can have. Sometimes, life tests you in ways you never expect. It's not always about the people who support you. Sometimes, it's about the ones who try to break you. That night, I realized something important. Betrayal often comes from the people closest to us. The ones who smile, the ones who hug, the ones we think we know can be the ones quietly plotting against us. But you don't need to fight fire with fire. You don't need to scream, expose, or lash out in anger. Calm observation and careful awareness can be far more powerful. I didn't plan an elaborate scheme. I didn't plot revenge. I simply stayed alert. I stayed composed, and when the time came, I let her actions speak for themselves. The universe has a way of revealing people's true nature. And sometimes, the most satisfying justice isn't in retaliation. It's in witnessing the truth unfold, watching someone crumble under the weight of their own deceit. Evelyn wanted to humiliate me. She wanted to control the evening, control my emotions, control me. But in trying to harm me, she exposed herself. And that was the ultimate victory. Always trust your instincts, stay calm, and never let someone else's manipulations shake your dignity. Because in the end, those who try to destroy you often end up destroying themselves. And when truth shines through, there's no need for anger, no need for confrontation. Justice becomes inevitable. And that night, I didn't just survive. I won, silently, powerfully, and forever.